ReelBlenders, it's Sean, and we are here with a bonus episode of ReelBlend because we managed to get Peyton Reed and Jessica Bendiger to sit down for an anniversary retrospective interview for Bring It On. I know that this is hard to believe, but the cheerleading comedy is turning 20 years old. And I know that that means that you wonder if there are any toros in the atmosphere or if Missy is still the poo. Well, I made sure to ask all of those questions to both Peyton Reed and Jessica Bendiger. So without further ado, let's throw it to our conversation for Bring It On 20 years later here on ReelBlend. So today I had a really fun day because I just did the Tenet junket as well too.
Oh wow.
And we had Christopher Nolan on the show. And so I watched Bring It On this morning in preparation for Christopher Nolan. Which is,
what a good double. That's such a good double billing.
Great double feature.
Now that you mentioned Chris Nolan, I feel really underdressed.
He did look spiffy. Earlier this year, I was able to interview Amy Heckerling, and I asked her a question that I want to throw to you guys as well, too. The teen genre, when done properly, feels like something that we should be overdosing on as an industry. It's an audience that is constantly looking for stories that are about them and that speak to them. And when one of them comes along, whether it's Eighth Grade or Perks of Being a Wallflower, the people do really latch onto them. Why is it so hard to get these movies made in the industry nowadays?
That's a rich question. Peyton, do you want to go first, and then I'll try to synthesize mine into something.
And maybe I'm wrong from this perspective. They seem to me that they would be lower budget, and that you could try your hand at some talent that needs to have a platform to shine. You guys had a young cast that had some talent, but you guys really did launch them. Like, this feels like something we should be doing more often.
I agree with you. I mean, at the time, 20 years ago, we were a $10, $11 million movie, which was on the absolute low end for what Universal Studios was making at the time. And as a result, we were left alone a lot during the shoot, which was great. We were shooting in San Diego and could sort of make decisions on our own, which was great. The big studios now, I mean, even then, but especially now, don't really have that much interest in making movies in that budgetary range because they still have to spend a lot on advertising and digital prints and all that. And it feels like with the advent of streaming, a lot of that is moving towards streaming, which there are a lot of really nice, between the series and the made-for-streaming movies, there's some really good high school stuff there. But it's important to me for two reasons. One, it's there are always stories where high school is a real microcosm of the world. And I think you can deal with, larger themes in the context of high school. And many movies have done that historically. But also, I think it's important, like you said, they're lower budget movies. And, it's a good thing to kind of let young filmmakers, up and comers, have a shot and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, right? I think tweens and teenagers, given the proliferation of new platforms also, we're competing with a level of exponential scale right now in terms of smartphones that didn't exist when we made Bring It On. And I think that the audience has fragmented considerably. And I think that's harder for studios, certainly legacy media companies, to justify that investment given the fragmenting of attention. I think, Netflix is paying attention to the algorithm, and you can see from the programming that they know this is where there is value. I think it's really challenging for legacy media companies to keep up with the tech platforms. I think that is not a fair fight. We know it's not a fair fight. And I hope the trend towards quality entertainment and not kind of garbage tween entertainment, I hope that continues. But listen, when you're a kid, we all liked a crappy boy band or two. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have, we loved. So, and many of them. And so I think, given that there is a high churn and a high turnover for this audience, it is hard as an asset allocation and an asset category for these companies to place bets there. I think that's just unfortunately where we're at. But you're right. Because when they're meaningful, they're so meaningful.
Oh, of course. And it breaks my heart that you guys might not have gotten a chance to make a movie like this, which so many of us hold really dear. I want you guys to take me back through the audition process and what you guys remember about it. Honestly, like we can't imagine anyone else but the actors that you picked in these roles, but how difficult was it to find the right personalities to fit these characters? And who did you get first and who played off of who?
Jessica, you were involved with a couple of actors before I even entered the picture. So
yeah, we had a reading before we were lucky enough to get Peyton. There was a reading and Gabrielle Union played Isis, mercifully, luckily. And Eliza played Missy.
Okay.
And so that was really very fortuitous because we weren't greenlit. It was just like a staged reading. And then they clearly stepped into the DNA of that role from jump. And then Peyton, and then it was like Kiki was on, as she's lovingly known, was on another movie. And Peyton had to like really intervene and give her the hard sell. Because she was a very, respected commodity back then and still is.
Yeah, she had just turned 17 when we made the movie, and she was doing a movie, I think, in the Czech Republic, and we got on the phone and talked about what this movie could be and the tone of it and everything, and she signed on, and things fell into place really quickly. But casting wise, we saw so many people for all the the secondary and tertiary roles, and they had to be able to be funny and also be able to dance, and they had to prepare a cheer when they came in.
Sean, I will say one person came in and did a toe touch, not an actor anybody knows, and ripped their pants wide open. Joseph Middleton and I were like, ah! Don't look up, where do you look, poor thing? And she just had to like take off a cardigan, wrap it around and be like, yeah, see you later.
No. But hey, look, that's what you have to be prepared for when you're doing a movie like this. So going back through it, I think for me, it's Burr, it's cold in here. There must be some toros in the atmosphere. That's the one that anytime anyone mentions the title, that jumps to mind. But going back and revisiting it, there's just so many other lines that hit me. But I'm wondering, what's the one you guys hear the most or have heard the most from fans who come up and approach you?
Missy's the poo.
Take a big whiff.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah. And I'm sexy. The people launch into the opening cheer quite a bit.
Right,
Hey,
right.
What do you get? Yeah. What do people say to you?
I get Birds Cold in Here. That's by far number one.
Yeah.
And then that opening cheer is something that, particularly if it's a friend of mine's kid who's in the cheerleading or something, they will launch into that opening cheer, which it has to be said, from the first time I read Jessica's script, that cheer was there verbatim. We didn't change a thing in that. And so that is the test of time, no question.
I would love to know when you guys realized you had a hit. When was it during test screenings? Was it closer to opening weekend?
I think it was about 9:20 p.m. on that Friday night that it opened. That was my memory.
I'll show you my favorite picture. I'm showing a picture of Peyton and I on the phone getting the call that it was number one.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I have this as a treasure, and it was really like that. Like
wait, do you guys remember the movies that you opened up against?
Oh yes, we do.
I remember.
Because,
it was.
What do you mean?
What
do you mean? You didn't know The Art of War was supposed to win that weekend?
Yeah.
The Wesley Snipes vehicle.
Yeah, it was by a long shot. We were really thinking like, okay, we know we're going to at least. We're going to be second. Are we going to be second? Maybe we're going to be third, fourth. How far down the line are we going to be? I mean, we were going to market with a competitive cheerleading comedy, and you just don't know. I mean, the tracking seemed good, but people showed up, and we were driving around opening night looking at theaters, and Jessica and I think we're both thrilled, like, oh, wow, there are people in the seats. That's good, right? I mean, that seems like a positive sign.
It was really sweet. And Kirsten got really emotional, which Peyton reminded me of this little renaissance we're having, revisiting. Yeah. She got really emotional when her agent called her. It was very sweet.
It was so cute. Again, she was 17 and she's on the phone, and the agent told her we were going to be number one, and she hung up and she's like, I have my first number one movie. She was so cute.
But guys, wait, take it even one step further too, because I know you stayed number one through Labor Day, and that's pretty significant to have a holiday weekend number one and to maintain that audience.
But I think to what your original question was, people really underestimate this audience. And I think when you have an underserved audience, they're very hungry and they're going to talk to each other, and they do repeat viewings. Right. So back then, like if you loved it, there's a high chance, I bet people saw it twice.
Right. True.
And I think it's a highly engaged, highly underserved audience. So when you hit the sweet spot with something they love, they go again and again and again.
Okay. And Peyton, just talk about in the edit, putting it together. You must have had confidence. Like, how confident were you that it was snapping together? And even still, like, I know you're really significant music background, and the music that you chose for this was monumental. Honestly, I kind of think the Mickey, end credits is something that you send the audience out on a high. It's part of the reason why it has some staying power to it. If you could just talk to me about the song choices that you came up with. And I kind of researched it today. The band that plays Jesse's song is Rufus King.
That's right.
Because they're really catchy. Clearly you like sort of power pop, punk rock type stuff.
Yeah, no, I
was all through that.
Yeah, I was a fan of all that stuff. And for Rufus King, it was interesting because Billy Gottlieb, who was our music supervisor, found that band. And they had this sort of California punk pop sound that felt like if Cliff had a sound, that would be his sound. And we gave them some sort of lyrical suggestions and what it needed to do in the story. And they came back with this amazing song. And I only recently learned that band broke up, I think, a week before the movie came out. And they were poised to like, oh, they have a song in this major movie, and they had broken up. Right. But the movie, though not technically a musical, I think is about as close to a musical as you can be without being a musical. It's just wall-to-wall music, whether it's the cheerleader mixes or Cliff's music or Chris Beck's score. But it was important that this movie almost feel like a cheerleader, like in the way that the camera moves and the way the music does it. It needed to have this positivity and this enthusiasm, and music obviously was a huge part of that.
Did you guys come up on musicals, just ones that soundtracks that just drove yourself through? You must have, I'm sure.
Yes. Are you kidding me? Those John Hughes soundtracks. I think I had She's Having a Baby. Like I had I had every format. He had so many great soundtracks for his movies, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
sure.
Breakfast Club, obviously, legendary, 16 Candles. But another shout out to Billy Gottlieb, I want to say. So in the script, I had written this song cue that that the Toros do and the Clovers do as Let Me Clear My Throat, which was a very expensive song cue. And Billy, bless his heart, found the sample, which was done by DJ Mark, the 45 King, and pulled that sample out. So so it sounds like a song, it's just the sample isolated, which was a stroke of genius. And really, he has to high fives for making that happen from script to screen. Like,
right.
Amazing. Yeah.
That is awesome. Okay, let's get to the legendary character of Sparky Pulaski.
Pilastri. I have to correct you.
Pilastri.
One of my best friends from middle school, her last name, so it's Pilastri.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where does he come from? Where is he? How is he born into the project? And I think he comes along in a really important part where they almost need to be, almost course corrected in a very unique way.
Yes.
And that's what happens to them through him. Where did he come from?
Yes. I will say, Ian and Peyton did an amazing job elevating that character and hitting out of the comedy ballpark. But it's based on a movie I was obsessed with, Smile, Michael Ritchie, and Michael Kidd, who's a very famous choreographer and dancer from the That's Entertainment days.
Right.
He plays Tommy, the choreographer, and I was obsessed. He was so mean to the contestants, and I thought that was brilliant. And so he was kind of a descendant. Sparky is a descendant of Tommy.
And is there a lot of stuff left with him on the cutting room floor?
Well, I mean, Ian is a very famous improver with Upright Citizens Brigade. He's one of the founding members. And I had done a couple of seasons of their show on Comedy Central. And when I was in New York working on that, we'd go see them improv every Sunday night. And he just had kind of what that character needed, which is, as Jessica was saying, this kind of anger and this rage. And I always thought of him as this very low rent, choreographer who was a pill popper and, worshiped Bob Fosse at one point in his life and copped his whole sense of style, but was just an absolute crook. And I love the idea of pitting his energy against these very innocent, these high school kids. And Ian definitely brought all that energy. So yeah, I'm sure there's some stuff on the cutting room floor.
I would love to revisit Sparky. We've been talking about this. Like, where is he now? What is the Sparky cinematic universe look like?
Yeah.
What's his prequel? What's his sequel?
It's dark.
It's dark. Yeah. Peyton. I was talking to Peyton. I was like sitting on the floor. I was like, what do you think? And he's like, have you seen Better Call Saul?
That would be hilarious. Yeah. I'm really curious too. Nowadays, we're in an age of franchises and sequels immediately. And after this hit, did they come after you guys to try to put together something relatively quickly with the cast and come up with an idea to continue the story? I mean, obviously we know that there are sequels to this, but
they didn't actually. And I'm trying to think, for me, it was a couple of things. I think it was right at that time where Universal, DVD was just at its peak. And our movie came out on DVD and went gangbusters. I mean, so many people discovered it on DVD. And they were at the time, I think, they did some American Pie sequels and Skulls, and then they decided they were going to do that with Bring It On. I think by that time, I was already prepping my second movie, Down with Love. But no, never got the call. Never got the call. Jessica?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there was a business decision that the scale of which was undeniable for them. And so they made that decision and decided to go in the made for direction. And It was very lucrative for them.
Jessica, I'm curious, was there ever a version in a screenplay draft that you were going through where the Toros won?
Never.
No. Okay.
From pitch. And I'm about to publish the outline, a book that's the draft of the script and the outline. And then even in the outline, the Clovers win.
Okay. But that's good. That's important. That's the message that I think all of us should be taking away.
That's the movie. I mean, that's the movie in terms of the message we wanted to put in there, and just like the positivity of the thing, of this theme that Jessica had from the very beginning of, I remember reading it and reading that opening cheer and thinking like, this is really fun. And it was hilarious all the way throughout. And then it sort of started to seed in a very serious thing, which was this cultural appropriation, that this 5-time national champion team, it was all built on the backs of someone else's work. It was stolen.
Right.
And that to me was like, wow, this thing is underneath this frothy, colorful, energetic, candy coating of this movie. There's a real serious theme going on.
Well, and one element of it too is that in a scenario that things could have been extremely exaggerated and broad, Torrance and Big Red, these are all very believable characters. Did you guys have conversations throughout the process of it, of making sure that you didn't go too far into satire to still make it credible and grounded?
Well, I feel like that was sort of, it was there in the script. And I think it was something that I worked on it every single day, just tonally with the actors and with the scenes, about you didn't want it to fly off into something that was so exaggerated that the audience couldn't hold on to something. I think casting was a huge part of that. The people that we cast, these, actors who could sort of do the dramatic stuff and wanted to create dimensionalized characters. But also I think that the tone where we landed, it was, for the people who were already into competitive cheerleading, I think they were psyched to see that sport dealt with as a sport. And for the people who had no grounding with it, you had characters like Missy and Cliff, who were the audience's eyes and ears and way into this very strange subculture. So tone was really important.
Yeah, and I think Peyton had a unique advantage, like that I couldn't see at the time, having directed so much comedy and his UCB background. Like the toothbrush scene was, Peyton said, I really think with all that's going on, this breathless pace and all this stuff, there needs to be a moment of ventilation and a moment of quiet. And I'm so glad, that was his idea. And we sat and I cranked out the scene, and it's become such a legendary moment because it stands out. It stands out as a moment of grounded, sweet ventilation in all this kind of breathless activity. So I'm really credit Peyton with that.
Peyton, have you filmed a cooler?
Don't try and arbitrate.
Have you filmed a cooler character introduction than Missy showing up at the gym for the tryout?
Oh my God, it's so good.
I think, the one that gives the run for his money is Gabrielle Union's intro in the same movie. I really wanted everybody, all those major characters, to have a heightened introduction into the movie. And that was one of the fun things. They all get them. Kirsten's character has a Busby Berkeley musical number to intro her. And when we finally meet Isis in the Clover's gym, we come in very low angle, and she raises her arms and the place goes silent. And even Cliff, we follow Cliff's Converse tennis shoes through the hallway and come up to see him. Like giving these very heightened intros to the characters, to me was important in this movie.
Can you talk too just about taking control of a set for your first movie and having that cast to be at your back? I mean, it's going to be, that's always going to be your first film.
Yeah.
How did you feel as a filmmaker? How did you feel tackling that? What were those days like?
Well, I mean, I felt like a camp counselor because, everybody was really, really young. And my biggest job was to keep everybody confident and positive and to harness all that insane teenage energy that was going on. And I benefited greatly from all those actors and their energy, and encourage them to bring a lot of themselves to those roles. So it's weird in hindsight, 20 years later, which is still nuts to me, thinking it's been that long. I have such positive memories. I can't think of a better first movie to have made. I mean, it felt charmed. I don't know. I mean, it really, from the first time I read Jessica's draft to when we were that Friday night when it opened and we were riding around, it just felt like a charm. And I remember Mark Abraham, one of the producers of the movie, like he pulled me aside. He's like, I want you to remember, he's from Kentucky. He said, I want you to remember tonight because you're never going to have another night like this in your entire career. And he was right.
Okay, but wait, we're looking around at the landscape and we have a Bill and Ted movie in theaters. And there's a show called Cobra Kai on Netflix, which is bringing back the protagonist of The Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Jessica, you say you guys are having a renaissance, but there's no reason why it can't continue. Have you ever batted around the idea of just revisiting these characters?
Oh, we've done more than bat. Yeah, we've tossed. We've we've done tosses, we've bandied, wherever you want it. Yes, we've talked about it. We really would love to do it. And I think we were, would the stars align? Is everybody available? All that. But yeah, Peyton and I, we intermittently over the years, yes. And he, and it goes from the absurd to the sublime, all the variations, like where are they now?
Yeah.
What,
right.
Sure. Yes, we'd love that. I would love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just talk a bit about staying creative in these bizarro times. How are you guys tackling that? Is it much harder to sort of keep those creative juices flowing? Or have you found that with this time that we've been blessed, that you're tackling more stuff or able to give more attention to things that maybe in a more hectic pace we weren't able to do?
Well, the Zoom fatigue is real, right? So even if Peyton's dealing with time zones and stuff, and he's got a lot more Zooms, but yeah, the Zoom fatigue is real. And so I think it's been trying to parse that out, but certainly it's, as a writer, you're uniquely positioned to be okay. For the first 2 months of COVID, I was like, this just feels like normal life. And now it's like, oh, I'm drooping. Like we all need to fill your well somehow. And you run out of ways. I've been running out of ways to fill my well. It's like, yeah.
No,
so
we're what are we, almost 6 months into this thing? And it's deeply strange, no matter what you're doing, whether you're working, whether you're not working. A lot of the work that I've been doing, we can do remotely, but as Jessica said, you get a little Zoom fatigue. And I also have kids who are doing school downstairs in the house at the same time. It's challenging, but I think there have been times definitely where it's like, okay, I don't have to get in the car in LA and commute and do any of that. That's kind of nice. But, so many people are hurting right now, and it's really, really hard. It's hard to really talk about, any possible positive aspects of it. It's just, I hope that we can get a vaccine and everybody can be out from under this. It's strange.
Right. I can tell you that I've been able to go back to the theaters twice this past week.
What did you see? What did you see, and how was it? Yeah.
So I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh,
nice.
South Carolina's theaters are open. I know. Peyton, my son is a junior in high school, and Chapel Hill is his number one school. So
nice.
Send some positive vibes his way, please.
Do it.
Please. So I went to see Tenet. I went to go see it before the pre-screening, and then I went to see The New Mutants on Friday. And listen, it's different, and everyone's being really cautious, but it is it's feeling slightly like we're turning the corner at the very least and edging back towards normal. And I know that every place is different and everyone's threshold is completely different, but it does somewhat feel like we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel for our industry.
I hope so.
I hope that you guys are, I hope you guys are able to dive right back into it and continue to create. So I will get you guys out of here on this one. Peyton, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, where are you at with Ant-Man 3? What are you kicking around ideas? Are you at a script stage? I know like the more that Marvel sort of gets delayed and pushes their dates back, I would think that it gives creatives like yourself more time to refine.
Well, that hasn't been a positive thing. Listen, I can't say too much, but we're definitely moving forward and we're able to work remotely, which is nice. And yeah, I think it is good having a little sort of hitting pause a little bit creatively has been nice to sort of step back and step out of it a little bit and sort of, it definitely informs the creative process on that movie. And I'm sorry that's so incredibly vague, but there's a Marvel sniper who might shoot.
I can tell you there aren't going to be any clovers in the Ant-Man 3. Sorry. If you were expecting clovers, I don't think it's going to happen.
How do you know?
That is an absolute shame. I do have a specific question, Peyton. I'm sorry. Now, I just thought of it now while I was on the phone with you. And I always thought, like, if I ever get a chance to speak to you about this, we were in Savannah. I'm trying to think when we were there during your filming of it.
Yeah.
And they had dressed a set to look like a Moroccan street for Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's cool. I can't wait to see what that's going to be.
It was actually it was a street dressed as Buenos Aires.
Oh, Buenos Aires.
It was a whole flashback sequence that we shot and then ended up cutting entirely out of the movie because it was too much backstory. It was too slow. There's little bits of it in the final movie, but none of the Buenos Aires thing. But that's the incredible thing about you. So you saw it and it was fully dressed and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we were staying at whatever hotel, I forget we were at. We go down to the Savannah College of Art and Design Film Festival every year.
Yeah.
And I want to say we were down there during
that was
time.
going on. Yeah, that was absolutely going on when we were shooting down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I saw the whole thing dressed. And they were like, yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp was filming here.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, cool, if I run into you while we're going around. So I was curious what you
cut
had
it
that
out of the
set up
movie.
for.
Cut it.
No, that's okay. The movie still works.
Thank you.
So, all right. So while we wait for your guys' next creative projects, everybody can go back and revisit the amazing film that you gave us 20 years ago, almost to the day. And having revisited, I can tell everybody it still holds up.
Thank
it still
you.
leaves you just sort of bouncing as you walk away from it. And you guys caught lightning in a bottle with that one. It was really great. So
thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
no problem. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, guys. We really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
All right, take it easy, guys. I cannot thank Peyton Reed and Jessica Bendinger enough for coming on and celebrating Bring It On. It's one of those comedies that I love. It's just fun to go back and revisit that comedy, see what makes it stand the test of time. And it was so much fun for them to come on and join the show. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you on the main show soon. I don't know how to end it. I really don't know how to end these things anymore. I'm at a loss. Thanks a lot, Christopher Nolan.